everybody, and welcome back to another weekly reading vlog. I hope you all are doing very well. If things have gone to plan, you should have just seen some B-roll of me building a fence around my little seedlings. If things have not gone to plan, there's some other B-roll, and I will explain in a later clip. But anyways, welcome back to the vlog. Hope you all are doing well. I have very ambitious reading plans for this week. Partially because I'm late on starting a book club book that I should have started well before now, and partially because I have this like urge to pick up one of my favorite authors again, and she writes very long books. And there's another book that I have been inspired to pick up by one of my friends here on BookTube. So all of those things together is going to probably make for a pretty chaotic reading week. But let's just get into the reading plans, and then I'll tell you about some exciting life plans too. First off, the book club book. So I am in an in-person book club with people that live around where I live. One of my very good friends from college, Charlotte, hosts the book club. We go to a little restaurant every time, and we read books from different genres. We have like a little spinner, and it's like she put like a one genre on each part of the spinner, and every time we spin it, we see what our next genre is going to be, and everybody will bring like a recommendation for that genre. So this time was memoir, and the book that actually got selected, I don't actually remember what I brought for memoir. I think it was I forget what the title is, but I'll pop it on the page, pop it up on the screen here. But the one that actually got selected is Matthew McConaughey's memoir called Green Lights, which is a bit random and not something that I probably would have picked up on my own. But I'm okay with it because the point of a reading in a book club is to, get you to read things that maybe you wouldn't read and chat about them with people. So all I know about Matthew McConaughey is that he was in True Detective season 1. He's always at Texas sporting events, and he has like a very Southern accent, and he's an actor, of course. That's about it. So I'm excited to learn a bit more about him. I will be listening to this one on audio because I love listening to memoirs that way, because usually the author, or Matthew McConaughey, narrates it, which I think is the case for this one. And I love his voice. I love his accent, and it just feels more personal, enjoying it that way. So I will listen to that. That's the first plan. Second up is it's time for more Kate Morton. I have read a couple of her books before. I have read The Forgotten Garden back quite a while ago. It looks like 2023. At the beginning of the year, I read that one, and I gave it 5 stars. That was a Tea Leaves Book Club pick. So somewhere on the interwebs, there's a live show. I'll try and find it. And I also read Homecoming. I read that one back at November, 2023, and I gave that one a 4 stars. She has a lot of other books, many of which I picked up at a used bookstore a while ago. In case you're wondering, I picked up Distant Hours and The Lake House, and then the one that I'm reading this week. But the one that I decided to go with is The House at Riverton. I believe this is her first published book. And the reason why I love Kate Morton so much is because, first of all, she's an incredible writer, just absolutely stunning. Second of all, very chunky books, so I feel like I kind of get sucked into them. And third of all, she writes mysteries with like a family drama element to them, and I just find them so compelling and readable. This one, it says, Grace Bradley was just a girl when she began working as a servant at Riverton House. For years, her life was inextricably tied up with the glamorous and eccentric Hartford family's daughters, Hannah and Emmeline. Then, at a glittering society party in the summer of 1924, a young poet shot himself. The only witnesses were Hannah and Emmeline, and only they and Grace knew the dark truth. So very much looking forward to this. It seems like the kind of week where I just want to like binge read something very, very long. This is nearing 500 pages. Looks like 460-ish. So certainly is going to be a bit of a challenge to read this. But I am going to try and read the physical book because I like experiencing her books in that way. Then hopefully I have time to read this one too, because it's a library book, and I think that I need to return this. My mom is a librarian, so every time I like return a library book late, I have this like guilt. And that is Why Fish Don't Exist by Lulu Miller. This was long-listed, not shortlisted, for the Women's Prize for Nonfiction this year. And Milena from Milena Reads read this recently. I can't remember what she gave it, but I want to say 5 stars. And just really loved it and said it was shocking and that you just needed to read it. And so I don't really know what this is about. I think it's about somebody who becomes very interested in a scientist, a problematic scientist, maybe. But I'm very curious. And I also really like this like gold foil situation. So I'm going to pick this up, hopefully, if I have time after all of my overly ambitious reading plans. Otherwise, this week, what are the things we have? It is going to be a pretty chill week in my life. Not a lot of work shifts, which is wonderful. Tyler and I are going to a pasta party, which sounds like the greatest thing that's ever happened. It's me and Ty, and then a couple of our friends. It's actually going to be hosted at their place, and every person in going to the party is going to make a different pasta dish. And I think the plan is to make like a pasta charcuterie board similar to like, just like meat and cheeses, but there's going to be like little bits of pasta that everyone will get. I don't know. It sounds great. I don't know. We have to select what we're going to make. I don't think we've like bought the ingredients for our pasta unless Tyler is like way more invested in this than I am or invested in the planning of this. But we are going to go shopping and think about what pastas we want to make for the pasta party. Otherwise, this week, lots of garden things going on. My lettuce seedlings outside are finally coming up, which is very, very exciting. My beets and carrots have not yet come up. And of course, our seedlings inside are doing just swimmingly. So lots of decisions will have to be made about what to do with all of these seedlings in different parts of our property. I also ordered a little cloche to cover some of the seedlings as we're not quite in the part of the year where it's going to be warm enough to just like let them fly on their own. So hopefully that will come in soon and I can cover up my little lettuce seedlings just in case we have some colder weather. But lots of time in the garden, which I'm very, very excited about. I am off to go build the fence, which you probably have just seen a clip of, and then upload last week's vlog. This is a very like meta intro to this vlog. But anyways, welcome to the vlog. So it's currently Tuesday. I just got back from lunch with some of my work friends. We went for some Chinese food. I got these little steamed buns, which were absolutely delicious. I got 2 were beet, 2 were chicken, and 1 was pork. Very yummy. Then we went to go for a quick coffee run afterwards, and now I'm back. I have done quite a bit of reading, and I also have a book box, so we've got a lot to get through. So let's get to the book box first. I got this a couple of days ago, and I have been resisting the temptation to open it, though I think I know what it is. So let's see. All right, so first is Flawless by Elsie Silver. This is the first book in a romance series. I think this is a spicy romance series. I always say that in my reading taste, in my reading life, I have to have a balance. I have to read a little bit of everything for me to feel fulfilled and to be able to keep going. And that means a little bit of romance, a little bit of thrillers, things that make me think. So I thought this would be fun to break up some more of the serious reads. A professional bullfighter. Interesting. I don't know. Sounds interesting. And then, oh yes, this is one of Elsie Silver's other reads or other series. It's Wild Love. This is the first one in a different series. So I figured I would give a couple of her romance series a go, probably in an upcoming video. I don't know how I'm going to feed these into my reading, but they looked fun. They looked like a good time. So adding those to the list. I actually did also go to the library a couple of days ago and a couple of my holds came in. First was Raising Hare, which is a Women's Prize for Nonfiction. Can't remember honestly if this is on the short list, but it's a memoir about a woman who cares for a hare while like during the COVID pandemic, which sounds right up my alley. And then I also had Embers of the Hands, the hidden histories of the Viking Age come in. This is also one of the Women's Prize for nonfiction books. I don't believe this was on the short list. I could be wrong about that. I saw Melina pick this up and she said it was a little bit like not the most engaging thing, so we'll see. But excited to have those two in my hands. And then I have some reading bits and bops to update you on. So first off, let me start with Green Lights, the Matthew McConaughey memoir for my book club. So I am about 1.5 hours from the end of the audiobook, and the book club is in 2 days. So I'm in good shape in terms of finishing it on time. The audiobook is narrated by him, which is lovely. He's a great narrator. He, of course, has lived these experiences, so I feel like that adds a lot of nuance. The writing is fine. One thing I didn't know about him is that he has kept diaries throughout most of his life. And so he has a lot of the like details from past events, which is great. Me and Matthew McConaughey are very different people. Very, very different people. There is a section of one of the stories where he's talking about how he inserted a device into his car so that he'd be able to pee in the car, like, without getting out. I was like, I think if I was a billionaire, I don't think I'd ever have a need for that. But to each their own. Despite, obviously big differences in lifestyle and preferences and all the things, I do find his stories engaging, interesting. And I always think it's so fascinating to learn how people who are very wealthy, very famous live. So far enjoying it. It's not like incredible, one of the best books I've ever read, anything like that, but it's decent, and I'm excited to see what the girls thought of it. Then, The House at Riverton. So I'm making my way through this. Currently on page 152 out of like 450-ish. It's taking me a bit longer to sink into this than it has for some of the other Kate Morton books. I believe this is her debut, I want to say. So, yeah, a stunning debut from People. So maybe that's it. Like, she's kind of getting used to her, writing style. This is the first book that she's written. Or with her other books, I have been just like totally sucked in, like, as the story started. And this took me a few chapters to be like, who are all these characters? What's happening? But now I'm getting more intrigued. So far we're following a older woman. Think like the beginning of this book is very like Titanic-ish because we're following an older woman and she is living like in a assisted living, or she has like a maid that is helping her. And she's thinking back to her memories of when she was working at Riverton House, and she was a young maid there. Her name is Grace. So we kind of flash back to like her first days at work, getting to know the family. Now we've gotten to the point in the story that is the beginning of World War I. So a lot of the young men, especially the boys who live at Riverton House, are going off to fight the war. And we are getting to what I think will be the mystery aspect. This party that they have in 1924 with a young poet that shot himself. So we're like working towards that time, but we haven't quite got to like the central mystery part of it yet. But yeah, enjoying it. This does feel very like Kate Morton-esque. By that, I mean, they're often multiple perspectives. They're often like they take place at an old, like, mysterious house. This just feels very on brands for her, even in her debut, but enjoying it so far. So excited to continue on with that one. Today, the rest of the day, just like boring life things. I need to finish up doing my taxes. I need to do a few things for the wedding. We have a few things that we are behind on that we need to like fill out and send in to the wedding people. I'm going to Orange Theory to work out today, so it's just going to be chill, but hopefully I should be able to get a bit more reading done. Hopefully make my way through a bit more of The House at Riverton. All right, so it's Wednesday, i.e., pasta party day. But I wanted to just pop in for a real quick update. Not a reading update, but I got some book mail and to kind of break up the B roll. It has been so rainy today. Clarence and I have just been snuggling on the couch reading today. I did a few little bits and bobs in the garden, but otherwise been very chill, which is my favorite kind of day. But I got a couple of parcels, so let's see. I picked up a used copy of All the Dangerous Things by Stacy Willingham. This author wrote Flicker in the Dark, which I read a couple of years ago. It was like a middle of the road um, thriller book. I think I gave it like 3 or 4 stars, but pretty readable. And I thought this would be a fun one to pick up in a vlog. Says 1 year ago, Isabel Drake's life changed forever. Her toddler son, Mason, was taken out of his crib in the middle of the night while she and her husband were asleep in the next room. With little evidence and few leads for the police to chase, the case quickly went cold. However, Isabel cannot rest until Mason is returned to her, literally, except for the occasional catnap or small blackout where she loses track of time. She hasn't slept in a year. So this sounds like a thriller with some tropes that kind of terrify me, but maybe I'll pick this up and enjoy this one. It could be a fun one for like a vlog of reading thriller books with tropes that scare you the most or that you don't like to read about. So maybe I'll do something like that. All right, the next book. I don't know how I have this already because I don't think it's set to release until the 8th of April, and it's not the 8th of April. So this is like an not arc of Murder at Gull's Nest by Jess Kidd. This is one of my most anticipated releases for the whole year. The first book in a new mystery series that seems kind of more on the cozier end of things. Very much looking forward to this. Also, this cover. Love it. All right. So those were our little book mail for the day. And I will give you, of course, some footage of pasta night because it is bound to be a great time. I haven't finished either of the books that I chatted with you guys about in the last clip, so I will keep you posted when I finally finish those. So it's currently Friday. I just got home from quite a long day of work. And when I got home, I watched an episode of True Detective. I made myself a heated up lasagna from a leftover from our pasta night. Made myself a nice steamy cup of peppermint tea in my Christmas mug. Not sure why that was the decision. And I'm about to settle in and do some reading before I head to sleep because I do work again tomorrow. But I realized I have quite a bit to update you guys on. First off, pasta night was a roaring success. We made ravioli with burrata cheese inside, which in hindsight might have been a bad idea because burrata is a very liquidy cheese, so there was a lot of like fluid in them. But we made ravioli, which were absolutely delicious. And then we made carbonara, which was also delicious, and lasagna, which we have so much left over in our fridge and we're currently making our way through for the rest of the week. And yeah, it was just it was a really great time to make the pasta from scratch, to spend time with friends, have a glass of red wine. It was lovely. Then I have 2 books that I have finished that I need to tell you about. A book that I'm in the middle of that I haven't told you that I was going to read in this vlog, and a book that I'm about to start tonight. So let's start with Matthew McConaughey. So I did have my book club for his memoir, and I think all the girls were kind of the same mind as I was, and that was that it was a solid 4-star read. It was written well. The stories were really interesting, engaging, and memorable. We were all quoting like our favorite lines, our favorite stories. he's just kind of a little bit of a weird dude. Like he's a little bit of an odd person, but that's fine, to each their own. I did learn a lot about him that I didn't know about him. It was an engaging memoir, but it didn't like get me in my feels like some other memoirs I have read have. For the next physical book club with those girls, we did decide to read, it's a John Marrs book. I'll pop it up on the screen. My phone is charging, so I don't remember what it's called, but it's in the dystopian category and it's a John Marrs book, and I've never read a John Marrs, so I'm very curious about that one. So I gave Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey a 4 stars. It was solid. Then I finished this chunkster of a book, The House at Riverton by Kate Morton, today, and I gave this 3.5 stars. It's a little bit of a disappointing rating given how much I absolutely adore Kate Morton. She is one of my favorite authors, and I truly mean that. Like, she's one of those authors that I have, like, on my Goodreads, I have, like I'm following her releases when they're going to come out. As soon as she says she's going to release something, it's automatically on my anticipated release list for that season. So this was a little bit of a disappointment. But I think the reason why this was a disappointment is because it felt so much like her later work, but worse. Like, it felt like the preliminary version of books that she wrote later that were much better developed and better paced. And as I said earlier, it has a lot of the themes that she likes to write about, mysteries, secrets that have been held for many years and somebody in modern day uncovering them, mysterious old houses, like The Forgotten Garden, which is one of my favorite ones of hers. I gave that one, I believe, 5 stars. It feels like this book almost to a T. Like, there's so much in there that is this book, but this pacing is just a little all over the place. Like, there were maybe the first 400 pages, stuff happened. We were building tension. We were building characters. But the last 60 pages was jam-packed full of things. And to be honest, like, that first 400 pages kind of dragged a little bit. Kate Morton wouldn't have done that to me in her more recent releases. And so I really could tell that this was a debut. I still did love the characterization. I did love the mystery aspect of it, but this just wasn't my favorite of hers. I gave this a 3.5 stars. Next, I was planning to pick up the next Abby Jimenez in my next vlog. However, I had an Audible credit. It came out on April 1st, and I literally could not wait. I needed it in my life. I needed to know everything about it. So I have started listening to it, and I want to say I'm about right at the halfway mark. It's tough for me in audiobooks to remember exactly where I am, but about the halfway mark. And so far, we're following 2 characters who I don't remember what their names are. Xavier is the male, and I'm forgetting who the female's name is. And they kind of have a meet cute in the veterinary office. So he is a veterinarian, and she is bringing in this kitten that she has rescued to be seen for the appointment. And they kind of have some initial chemistry, but he's not the nicest to her. And so they don't quite hit it off, but there's also a anger, we like each other type of thing. So then something happens. And they eventually go on a date, which is not a spoiler. It's on the back. And this date is the greatest date that either of them have ever been on. It's incredible. They love it. It's amazing. But they each have things in their life that is really preventing them from being together. So the female protagonist, I really feel bad. I can't remember her name. This is an audiobook problem and also a me problem. But anyways, her mother is suffering from early onset dementia in her 50s. And the main character is going to take care of her. And she has to travel away, obviously, to live with her mother and to be there for her. And she's dealing with the grief of having lost somebody that she knew so well. And while she is physically still there, her mother is not the person that she used to be. So she's suffering that loss. And then Xavier, the veterinarian, the main guy lead, is struggling a lot. One with some family things in his past and trauma that he's had from his family, but also with the difficulty of being a vet and the frustration that he feels with people who don't take care of their pets properly, or the limitations to his work and that he can't save everybody and not everybody has the funds to save every animal, and just like all of that pent up anger. And he has put a lot into his current veterinary practice, so he cannot just uproot himself and move to wherever she wants to go. So while their first date was literally the most perfect thing that could ever happen and has so many great one-liners and great scenes involving an escape room and many other like really adorable first date scenes, they are stuck. Like both have impassable things that they cannot change. But their chemistry is fire. And I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work out. I really don't, but I'm really intrigued by it. And I'm really, really, really enjoying the first bit of it. And I put on my Instagram, I've done this before and it was a bad idea, but I put on my Instagram a picture of the book and I said, I'm getting 5-star vibes. I don't know. I don't want to say it too soon, but I'm really, really enjoying it. Okay. So, given that it's Friday and we have tomorrow and Sunday, I am going to try and try and quickly read but enjoy Why Fish Don't Exist by Lulu Miller. This, again, was a nonfiction book that was on the Women's Prize for Nonfiction this year, and I am going to go into it a little bit blind and let you know what I think. I know it is about somebody's appreciation and admiration of a scientist, but this scientist has a lot of problematic things about him. Also, I'm just reading the back of this and I'm realizing that the author of this is one of like the NPR is a worker for NPR. She's a journalist for NPR, which is just so exciting because I'm like an NPR fangirl and a PBS fangirl, and I plan my life around different PBS shows. Like, when is PBS NewsHour on? When is Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me on? I have a Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me mug. So this is very exciting. So very excited to get into this. I'm going to drink my peppermint tea. I'm going to read a bit of this, and then I have to head to bed before it gets too late. So it's currently Monday and the week really got away from me. I meant to upload this vlog yesterday, but yesterday was chaos at work and I got home and I was tired, and Ty and I just ordered noodles for dinner and sat on the couch and watched basketball and didn't do anything super productive. But I'm feeling better today. I had today off, and so I wanted to wrap up this vlog. So when I last talked to you, I was in the middle of reading, or I had just started reading Why Fish Don't Exist, and then I was in the middle of Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. And I gave one of those books a resounding 5 stars, and it's probably not the one you think it is. So let's start with Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. So I gave you guys the setup of this one. So basically it's a very great first date where kind of everything gets in the way. And they're not able to be together for a lot of different life circumstances. And I really loved the setup to this one. I found that their connection was really... like the initial date and their initial spark was really lively and came off the page and felt real. But I don't know why, but I lost a little bit of the connection throughout the story, where it started to feel a little bit repetitive and a little bit cliche. And I don't know why, because I've never felt that way about an Abby Jimenez, but I just kind of lost a little bit of the spark. It was still obviously a great romance. It was still a great story. Her writing is still fantastic. I loved that there were their dogs and pets in the story, and I loved their initial connection. But something in me just like wasn't bringing me to give this book a 5 stars, and I don't have a great reason why, but I ended up giving it a 4 stars. I do still recommend it. I think if you enjoy her other books, you probably will enjoy this one, but it just didn't have that like same pull that some of her other ones have had for me. Otherwise, though, I picked up Why Fish Don't Exist by Lulu Miller, and I did not think that this was going to be the stunning success that it was. There's a bunny in my backyard and it's really cute. But this book like has part of my heart in a way that I never thought it would. So again, this is a nonfiction book. You're kind of following Lulu and her throughout her life, but basically it surrounds her obsession that she has with this scientist named David Starr Jordan. So Lulu grew up struggling a lot with her mental health and kind of with the finding the purpose for living, finding persistent hope and persistent drive in the face of kind of darkness. And she becomes obsessed with this man named David Starr Jordan, who was a taxonomist / biologist / collector in the mid 1800s. And David Starr Jordan also struggled a lot when he was young with being bullied and not really knowing his purpose. But eventually throughout childhood and into adulthood, he begins to collect things, particularly animals. And the animal that he likes to collect the most is fish. He collects them in little bottles and he preserves them and he assigns names to them and tries to figure out how they're connected to each other. So taxonomy. And this is his whole life's work. And not only does he do this once, this isn't a spoiler, it's kind of at the beginning of the book, he has to do this twice because there is, of course, this big earthquake in the early 1900s. I don't know why I said of course, like you wouldn't know that. Like you don't know where he is or why or if that would have happened. But there is an earthquake in the early 1900s where basically all his jars of fish clatter to the ground and they all break, and all of the fish and the labels that are floating in the jars just become separated from them. So not only does he collect them and label them the first time, he then goes through and painstakingly like matches fish with label and sews them on to the actual organism to remap out everything that he's already done. And she, I guess, admires so much his persistence and resilience at that task. But as she learns more about David Starr Jordan, she realizes that he is not the man that she thought he was. And maybe there are things about him that are not so admirable. And it's really this journey of like making those discoveries and reckoning with them and piecing together what this means for her and ultimately how she thinks about things. And the end of this book was absolutely phenomenal. It really was a book about like science and self-discovery, but also about so much more than that. It was like so unbelievably stunning. I don't even know, like I can't think of the words to describe to you why I loved it so much. I did not expect to give this 5 stars, but I gave this a resounding 5 stars. And I think that this is my favorite book of the year so far, which I never would have guessed, but here we are. All right, so it is time to wrap up this reading blog. This week I read 4 books. The first one was Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey, which I gave 4 stars. Then I read House at Riverton by Kate Morton, which I gave 3.5 stars. Then I read Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez, which I gave 4 stars. And finally, Why Fish Don't Exist by Lulu Miller, which I gave 5 stars. If you guys reach the end of this video, leave me a fish emoji. And with that, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys very soon with another video. Bye.